there are accountants unintentionally doing their taxes incorrectly for their clients, and I feel like I'm cleaning up a mess after a mess after a mess.
Invest in yourself. Do the side hustle. Do the thing that brings in the highest taxable income. Live below your means, I think is maybe the solution. And
if you're not talking to your accountant when these 5 things happen, all you've got is what you think and what you've heard on some reel on Instagram. Hey guys, welcome to an in-house episode of the Lat Chat with Jacob and myself. We're just going to have a chat today. Jacob, how you going, mate?
Mate, good. It's been a great morning. Thanks for having me on, as always.
It's so good to see you. And you're wearing such a nice suit, my friend. You know what I mean?
We had a fashionista walk through those doors earlier, so I thought, you know what, I'd dress it up a little bit. There's lots happening in life. So thank you. You know I'm in serious mood when the suit comes out.
I know you're in a serious mode when the nice attire comes out.
I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate it. All right, speaking of some more serious topics, let's get started. So we're going to do some agree or disagrees.
Yes.
The people have been loving this segment, as you know.
Yes.
So let's start off with agree or disagree, okay? You got little paddles that you can put up.
Tell me.
The more money you have, the more problems you face. Agree or disagree? I'm sort of flip-flopping on this one a little bit. Where are you at?
You shoot.
I'll shoot?
You go.
Okay,
Why are you saying flip-flop?
I'm neutral, and I'll tell you why I'm neutral.
Yeah.
When you have no money, you have problems. Is just the reality of life, okay? Because money is a tool for attaining different resources and things. And so if you've got no money, we're dealing with problems like I can't put food on the table, I can't fulfill my basic human needs. Once you have fulfilled your basic human needs and you have
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
That's right. So once you've fulfilled your basic human needs and now you're at a place of, sort of in between, you have less problems. However, once you make more and more money, you just experience different problems. And so a lot of the time everyone thinks, I wish I could be rich, I would have none of my problems and all my problems would disappear. But having clients that have, from all walks of life, who some have made a lot of money and some, are still working towards that. As you grow and accumulate wealth, your problem just becomes different in terms of managing that wealth. Because when you have no wealth, you have no, I'm going to say enemies or creditors or debtors, or you don't have people that you're accountable for. Once you've made quite a substantial money, you have to think about legals. You have to think about strong accounting. You have to think about, making sure your money's working for you. Making sure that you've got wills and all the various things that come with it. And final thing I want to say is that if you have made a substantial amount of money in your life, you have likely built up either an investment portfolio, you've set up some sort of business, and in that life comes a lot of people who are relying on you, a lot of responsibility on your shoulders, and just a burden of performance that, someone who is making an average wage might not have. You just have different problems, and you have more exaggerated problems. Your debt is no longer on your family home. 500 grand, it might be $2, $3, $4 million. They're different problems. Yep. So they're my thoughts, John.
Your thoughts. All right. So this revolutionized the way I think about money. It's the fact that when you're holding money, it's a stewardship concept. Now, when you die, you take nothing with you. Now, what happens is when you really understand that, and you get past those physiological needs, when you're not in an utter state of dependency where you feel like you're living day to day, you start to, the fog clears and you start to think clearly about resources. Money is just another resource you do not take with you. You're holding it. Any resources, assets that you own, you're holding it as a trustee. All that happens when you are a trustee over more resources is you have to make more decisions. And now you're responsible for the outcomes of those decisions. By virtue of the fact that when you have more resources, i.e. in this case more money, you have to make more decisions. Decisions are hard things to make. Decisions can change the outcome of your life, of other people's lives, and you hold a lot of responsibility and stay up late at night when you've got a lot of decisions to make. I've got clients worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they spend hours on the phone, on Zooms, in office with me, navigating and wrestling with concepts about what to do, what's the best, most wise way to use these resources so that they get return on investment, so they don't lose it all, so their creditors don't come after them. Those decisions and burdens are placed on the rich or those with money. And in a way, they've earned that. But if we're saying, the question is, are you more? Is it
The more money you have, the more problems you face.
The more money you have, the more problems you have. They're not physiological problems. You don't have the problem of I can't pay my rent. But you got the problem of, should I invest here? Should I set up this structure? Is this person going to sue me for this particular, breach of whatever? Am I compliant on this tax issue? And if you've got $100 million net worth and you think you're not going to stay up some nights, stressed out that someone's going to come and take all that money away from you and you're going to be a huge failure. Sometimes having no money, like you're the most free person in the world. Yeah. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Play on.
100%. So Mark Boris talks about this with Jerry Harvey. He was on the golf course with Jerry Harvey once, founder of Harvey Norman, and he says, I've always have this feeling of one day I'm going to wake up and all of my wealth is going to be taken away from me because I've made hundreds of thousands of decisions and I've made one decision slightly off the trail. And
they're not even selfish.
Yeah, no.
Look, some people can be selfish, but that's like a personality flaw. Most people are well-meaning, caring people that want to do right by others. When they say, I'm scared I'm going to lose my $1 billion enterprise, it's not because they need $1 billion to survive. Bro, you go to Jerry Harvey, his lifestyle, I promise you, doesn't cost more than what you live on $250,000 a year. 100%. Once you're hitting like $250,000 a year, he's going to, apart maybe from his house, which is more expensive, but like, let's say he was renting the house he lives in, he could do it on $250 a year. The other $10 million a year, $100 million a year he's making. The only fear he has is he's going to be a huge failure if he destroys this wealth and everything he's built up or Harvey Norman's built up for the people around him, for his staff, 100%. For his kids, for his family, for the stakeholders, for customers. It's about other people. So, man, the money aggregates around the people who are the best at stewarding the money.
Yep.
And then the burden for those people is the money. You now have to do the right thing with all this. No one's spending all that money on themselves unless you're an idiot.
Yeah, 100%. And so, that's great. I think we've covered that extensively. So that was good.
Thanks for the flip-flop. I'm hoping I get an actual answer from you on the second one.
All right, let's see how we go. Well, it depends what the question is. Here we go. The majority of businesses are unintentionally doing their taxes incorrectly. Do we get it? Okay, so let me repeat that. The majority of businesses are unintentionally doing their taxes incorrectly.
I want to say
where
agree.
Did you go? You went with the flip flop. Oh, you're pointing it to the camera.
Yeah, am I hitting the camera? Yeah.
All right, cool. Agree. All right, so you agree. I also would agree with that. You go in there. I'll go over to you first. The majority of businesses are unintentionally doing their taxes incorrectly. Talk to me.
Let me have a look at that. So the majority of businesses are unintentionally doing their taxes incorrectly.
Look, can we rephrase? Let's rephrase the question to go to the majority of businesses doing things incorrectly are doing it unintentionally.
Yeah, I would say the majority of businesses are unintentionally doing their taxes incorrectly or doing things incorrectly unintentionally.
Yeah. And
the reason I say that is because of our experience in our growth. In 2024, we won Fast Growing Accounting Firm of the Year, Latitude Accountants. All right, inquire here. But we actually have onboarded more clients in the last 12 months than we probably have in the 5-10 years before that. And what you get to see when you onboard new clients is a real cross-section of businesses. Yeah. And I'm not only seeing a cross-section of businesses, I'm seeing a cross-section of accountants.
Yes.
And bro, I don't know if you know, but every single time I look at a new balance sheet, I imagine it's your experience, that's coming from an accountant. Bro, there are businesses that are unintentionally, forget businesses, there are accountants unintentionally doing their taxes 100%. Incorrectly for their clients. And I feel like I'm cleaning up a mess after a mess after a mess because everyone that's coming in from these other accountants are doing things wrong. What are they doing wrong? They're claiming deductions on things that they shouldn't be claiming. They're not paying fringe benefits tax or dealing with fringe benefits correctly. They're pulling money out of their businesses, which is breach of Div 7A rules, and not accounting for minimum repayments properly. They're structured wrong. They've got assets in entities. they've got assets in companies that shouldn't be in companies, and they've got capital gains tax consequences they're going to have because they're in companies when they shouldn't be in companies. They're not using family trust. I sit there, I could name you 10 problems. And yeah, is it all unintentional? Of course, because the accountant isn't out there, and this is super fraudulent, and I don't think that's the real big issue. It's just ignorance, giving everyone bad advice, setting up the wrong structures, and they're back ending and they're forward paying all these future problems to these clients. And I think that's why growing is so hard in accounting, because when you have a client the first year, you do probably 3 times the amount of work re-educating, restructuring and cleaning their tax mess. And then in subsequent years, it becomes a lot easier.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I think I have a fundamental belief about Australians, just for the record. I think most accountants are good faith people that want to do the right thing. But I think our problem here in Australia is that our tax legislation is so complex that even if you are the most well-intended accountant, up to date with all of your CPD, trying to do all the right things, you're going to get some things wrong. And so it's just the law and the tax law has become so complex that even when it goes through the courts, it'll get appealed and go through multiple different lawyers and tax lawyers and things trying to get the right result. That it's often difficult.
And even the ATO sometimes doesn't know the tax rules. So I can imagine that business owners don't know. I had a meeting with the ATO this week. We had a meeting with the ATO. We sat down with the ATO, and it was just a general health check. And we passed with flying colours, thankfully. But I picked up in that meeting two takeaways for me were my meeting with the ATO. Number one, we sat with people who we had to sometimes on some tax issues, for example, in our case on PSI, taxable payment annual reports, we had to correct them on the rules, and then they conceded and said, you're actually 100% right on that. This doesn't apply in this area. And the other thing was we gave them feedback, and they said, what's the feedback of the tax agent? And I said to ATO, I said, my feedback is the GST code, let alone the whole income tax code, is too complex. We've got a situation where depending on who's buying something and who's supplying something, the GST, which is 10%, may or may not apply in different circumstances. How are we going to automate a tax system and use AI to our advantage where if you can't just blanket say there's going to be a 10% GST on something or not, if we just say it's 10% in or out on all services, then you can automate that, put it in the point of sale, and then basically the tax is going to come off the top and go straight to ATO. But if we sit there and go, you got to read a legislation this big to work out if GST applies on this service. And then you got to work out if you're under or over the threshold, and if you're GST-free industry or not GST-free industry. Of course, ATO can't even get it right. How is my taxpayer going to get it right?
Who's just a small business trying to run this is just 1/millionth of their business. They're just trying to run a business. They're just trying to provide value. They're just trying to do the right thing. Again, my fundamental belief is that all Australians are extremely compliant. We are a compliant nation. I look at the US, who was founded on non-compliance, who was founded on, no, you want to impose a tax on us? No, actually.
Did you see how compliant we were?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Everyone, you have to stay home and come out for 1 hour to go exercise. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone, you have to stay home and work for the next 3 months. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Can you put the footy on for us at least? All right, we'll let them play football, no fans. You know what I mean? And then everyone's like, no worries. Bro, do that in France. They'll be in the streets. They'll be burning things down.
100%.
We don't care. Like we'll say play on. We're good. We're easy. We're easy, democracy to manage. But the complexity is killing business owners.
100%. So in dire need of tax reform, I don't disagree with that. Did you get an agree or disagree from me there?
Thanks,
you happy with that? You're welcome. No worries. All right. In order to succeed in a business startup, you need to have no plan B. Agree or disagree? That's a good question. In order to succeed in a business startup, you need to have no plan B.
I'm going to say disagree.
All right, tell me why.
Look, the idea of you have to have no plan B is the idea that you just got to go all in. And I'm for all in. But the reality is every single person has a fear or hesitation on the inside. If you need to have a plan B, just to soothe your soul, so you can say, okay, if this doesn't work out, I can fall back on my job. I can fall back on my degree. I can change the service to do this. And that's going to give you the peace of mind and confidence to go out and pursue the business. Have a plan B.
Yeah.
Have a plan B.
Yep.
All right. But the idea of you have to succeed, you can't have a plan B to succeed is that like at least go 100% full steam with all your effort and strength and ability into that business to give yourself a chance. Because if you don't, the guy next door will, and he'll crush you.
Absolutely. So I'm also going to disagree. I think you can have a plan B. Let me share, just so you know, my flip-flopping. Okay,
yeah.
I'll share with you what's happening in my mind when I'm going through this. So I've read a few books in my time, as you might know.
Yeah, of course.
And
Ping Pong Langley and the rest of them.
Which I'll mention later. So Phil Knight, founder of Nike, is actually an accountant. He's a CPA, which is the equivalent of a CA in Australia. And so the reason he became a CA is that he said that in order for me to take on some risk in my life, I need to have a safeguard and like a fall safe. Yeah. And accounting is an excellent fall safe because you are going to make a decent amount of money and taxes are not going away. Yeah. So it's a good qualification to have. So he goes and gets his CA, he does all the things, he works at a CA firm, and then he starts dabbling with, he started a shoe brand and then it eventually became Nike. So even Phil Knight says that you should have a plan B. The founder of Nike says you should have a plan B. Mark Burris is another example where he often thinks like one of the safest ways to go into business is to transition from your, you go to uni, you get your job, you get qualified, and then you transition from that job into a business and to do your own thing. So that's one part of me. The one part of me says, yes, you should, have a plan B, give yourself that base level, which will allow you to take the risk and to keep moving forward. The other side of my brain, it's like the angel and the devil here. The other side of my brain is thinking, when Cortez gets to Mexico, what does he do? He burns the boats. Okay, yes. He goes forward, he burns the boats and says, there is no plan B. We are going to succeed or we are going to die trying. And 50 Cent says the same thing. And so the other part of me wants to believe as well that the person who has their back against the wall and has no other option to succeed is going to go above and beyond than the person who has a plan B. So
that's attractive.
It's so attractive. There's something so attractive about someone who's just going to say, I have no distraction. I have nothing. This is it. If this doesn't work, it's there's nothing else. And so there's something attractive about that. There's also a level of desperation about that. Yeah. So that could also hurt you a little bit because you're going to make decisions that may or may not be the best decision, but you've burned the boats and you've put yourself in that spot. What do you think? We need
the spectacle. Yeah. In Australia, we need the spectacle. Let me tell you, you're never going to live a day in Australia where you don't have food to eat.
Yeah.
All right. Every single person I know has had a roof over their head and had food to eat. If anything, we're too fat, not too skinny. There's no real risk of failure in Australia. The social net and the society and the community and the country we live in will prop you up. So you just need to stand on the edge of the cliff and jump in. Worst case scenario, you'll just hit the bottom and you'll land where 90% of people are, back at square one.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm all in with you on just going all out. But some of us are planners and some of us will have a little like $500 Monopoly note under the board just in case they run out of money.
Are you that guy? Are you the guy when we're playing Monopoly? The first thing that happens is you whip
get
out
two 500s. You got to take one 500. You got to put it under the board. So if you go, everyone thinks you're bankrupt. You pull out the other 500.
Yeah. And then worst case scenario, you just flip the the Monopoly board.
My brother Jack never liked me playing bank in Monopoly because every time I was banker, I won the game. If you know what I
mean. That's great. Very good. All right. So on to our next agree or disagree. I am still shocked at what people try to claim on tax. Agree or disagree? I'm going to wholeheartedly agree with this one. Yeah.
I'll agree.
John, tell us some stories. What have you seen?
Look, this tax system we live in is called a self-assessment tax system.
Yep.
Okay. I've recently had a scenario where a friend shot me a question on their deductions, and they inadvertently managed to claim $40,000 of personal tax deductions on their job using their MyGov, and have now got into some trouble. And I had the lovely job of breaking it to them that maybe there was a little bit too much. I've seen clients try claim their weddings. I've seen clients try claim their home renovations. I've seen someone try claim 6-week overseas holiday to Europe. I've seen designer handbags, watches. We've actually put a blog out recently. Nathan, our marketing team's put out a blog on luxury items that you can grab on our website. But I see the deductions left, right, and center because In a system where you're self-assessed and you literally pay less tax the more deductions you can claim, you get what you incentivize. And we are incentivizing people to try and claim more and more deductions. I am of the opinion, claim less, not more.
100%.
You do not want to be in the punish is the process. The punishment is the process. If you get audited, if you have to prove your deductions, if you have to retrace your steps, going through that headache is not worth the extra couple $1,000 you're going to think you're going to get away with. I can't remember the last time I claimed any substantial personal tax deductions in my own tax return. I don't even care. Like, I just want to lodge my tax return, get it done. I just don't want it hang over my head. I got to lodge my tax return, because at the end of the day, you're not going to get rich by claiming more tax deductions. That's different to, should I get a good accountant and get tax advice? You can get rich and you can change your life with a good accountant and advisor advising you on tax. That's not the same as getting an advisor who claims maximum tax back.
100%.
All right. So people get that lost all the time. A good advisor will structure you correctly. They'll make sure that you've got tax planning done. They'll make sure you're observing all the rules in the most beneficial way to you so that your numbers are correct. They'll make sure that you look attractive to the banks because you're paying tax and you're profitable and you're doing all the right things. And they'll keep you out of trouble with ATO and authorities. Then the ones who are saying, hey man, I can get you a 10 grand refund, run for the hills.
100%.
Avoid them. They're scammers. They're no good. They're trash. They're all going to burn. They're all going to die. In the end, the accountants that do the right thing and help people build wealth, and they're the ones that they're honest with their client. They say to their client, I've got clients worth $100 million, $500 million, $50 million, $20 million. I can tell you what they're all doing. They're using trusts. They're paying their tax. They've got profitable businesses. They're wise with their money. I will take their secrets from the rich. I'll give them to you. Okay, not one of them is claiming 40, 50 grand personal tax deductions just to get an extra 5 grand in his refund.
Absolutely. And I often actually find the more established and the more you've sort of been around the circuit, the less and less and less appetite you have for doing anything remotely even grey. There's a it's even biblical where you want to not appear with even it's even biblical where you don't even want to have the appearance of evil.
Yeah,
it's better to just claim less.
The process is the punishment. Yeah. Don't cop or audit. Don't
100%.
Put yourself in the areas where it's like you're risky.
Yeah.
Just do 100% the right thing. Spend
100%.
every bit of mental energy. This is maximum efficiency.
Yeah.
Spend all your mental energy thinking, how can I grow my wealth? How can I improve my business? How can I build? Don't spend any mental energy thinking, how can I get more tax deductions?
Absolutely agree. Some of the what have I seen in the I've seen lots of school fees, childcare fees, all of that. And then it's even like, oh yeah, but to go to work, I need to put my kids in childcare and that's fine. Yeah. That's it's a shame that you have to do that, but it's still not tax deductible. So just so we know, there are 3 golden rules to every tax deduction. Okay. I actually believe, just so you know, that I coined the term, the 3 golden rules, and I've seen it on the ATO website. So, whatever, it is what it is.
Should pay your royalties.
Look, I don't want to, chase them up, but whatever. So the 3 golden rules to claiming any tax deduction are the following. Number 1, make sure there is a sufficient connection or a nexus between your income deriving activities and the things you're claiming. Said in human terms, make sure that there's a connection between your income and the expense you are trying to claim. And that needs to be a really specific and close connection, okay? It's number 1. Number 2 is you must maintain a record or a receipt. In case of an audit, you need to be able to provide substantiation. And the third thing is you must have spent the money and not have been reimbursed by your employer. So anytime you hear, who's going to know? No, you must have spent the money and not have been reimbursed. And they're the 3 things you need for every tax deduction. The ATO actually puts out, and I've sent a couple of these this week, the ATO puts out industry guides for what everyone is claiming in your industry.
Yeah.
And so you can check out the ATO website for that. But I've had a cross-section of people in different industries, and they always ask, what are other people claiming in my industry? What can I claim? So I always point them back to the ATO website where you can claim what other people are claiming in your industry as long as you've satisfied those 3 golden rules.
Yeah.
We'll end that segment there.
Yes.
And we'll get into I've got some accounting tips. So accounting tips. What is something you've seen this week, John, in your client base in the world of accounting that you want to pass on to our? By the way, this is non-scripted, off the cuff.
Yeah. No,
John?
look, accounting tips is what I do. I think we started a bit with the accounting tips.
Yeah.
Something came up this week was I had a client come in and they said, I want to start a family trust. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't know about, but if you've got a business and your shares are owned personally, you've got one way to dividend out those profits from that company. That is, you take the profit from that company, you give it to yourself. If you're making over 190 grand a year, that means on that entire dividend, you're going to pay 47% tax, 45% plus 2% Medicare levy. The beauty of the family trust is if you've got a business and your business is owned not by yourself, but by a specifically designated, set up family trust, which will own those shares, and you got a family group and you got beneficiaries or dependents that are, adult siblings, other people in the family, you can build wealth in your family generationally using that family trust. And now, as the trustee, you have the choice every year who to distribute profits to. There might be a year where, let's say you're a husband who's on 190,000 a year, and there's a year where your wife's not working or she's taking a career break or whatever, and she's not making money. You've got the choice as a trustee of that trust to distribute your business profits, in some cases, to your wife and pay tax anywhere from 0 cents all the way up to, I say an average of 30 cents in a dollar, depending on how you work it, rather than paying 47%. If you're saving 17% tax on 100 grand profit, you've saved 17 grand.
Absolutely. And the compounding effect of that, it's not just in the first year that you're going to save that tax money. It's all ongoing. Now you have a structure that will allow you to maximize your tax position, basically. And you know what? It makes sense from a commercial. It's not just a tax. It's not just a tax thing, right? Yeah. It's if you're generating wealth for your family through your business. Who do you spend your money on as a as a father and a family man?
Yeah, you spend it on your kids and on your family.
Right. So instead of me getting that money, paying tax on that money, and then giving it to my kid, there's if they're over 18 and you genuinely are giving them the money and you're transferring it to them, and there's no obligation for them to give it back.
Yeah.
All my money is going to go to my family anyway. So if you're someone who has a couple of kids, they're in uni, they're over 18, and you've got a decent business, you can distribute that money to them pre-tax and save some of that money.
But the family trust is so good, right? Yeah. There's a perpetuity there and a long-term use. You can buy investment properties. Yeah. You can buy shares. There's premium options available for finance with the trusts where you can segregate the borrowing capacity. There's options. And like I say to everyone, it's like, look at what the rich are doing. Are the rich using family trust? Did Gina Reinhart have a court case where her daughter was trying to sue her due to the not having access to trust assets? Why are the rich talking about trust? Yeah. Because, bro, you save tax, all right? I have too many clients come in on day one and say, I'll set up a trust when my business is making money, or I've got profit, blah, blah, blah. Bro, if you do not set up a trust on day one, the second you decide to set up a trust and transfer the shares from your company into the trust, you know what you're going to get hit with? Capital gains tax.
Yeah.
Why pay capital gains tax later to save a couple grand now to set up the right structure?
Absolutely.
I spend a lot of energy during the week really educating people, and it's not because they don't want to do the right thing. It's just that they don't know. Yeah. If you sit down with the client and you say to them, this is what it looks like now. This is how much you'll save later. This is why the trust will save you tax. This is why it protects you. This is how you're future-proofing your structure, and this is a vehicle you use to build wealth. It costs you this much now, and it costs you this much ongoing. But I promise you, in year one of you making 100 grand profit, you're going to get back every dollar you ever spend on that trust. It's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. So
education is the key there.
Absolutely. So ensuring you get your structure set up right from the start with good professional advice to make sure that it supports yourself, your family, and your overall tax affairs.
How about you? Do you have any tips?
I do. So we've been doing a lot of training with the team recently, and something we've been implementing is just what are the common questions we get asked from clients, and making sure that, as a firm, we have some more uniform approaches to these things, and making sure that we're training the next generation to be able to answer questions like you just eloquently answered a question. So one of the things we've gone through is how much should I pay myself out of my business? We touched on that a few weeks ago. Let's do another one.
Yep.
And it's going to be, should I buy a car in my company? Okay. And there are a few things you need to think about before you just go ahead and use the TikTok advice of, and every time we mention this on a short or Instagram reel, it does very well.
Yeah.
No, you should maybe not buy your AMG in the company. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to consider some of the complexities that come along with that. And so I want to dive into a little bit of those complexities right now. So should you buy a car in your business or should you buy a car in your company? Here's the answer to that. If you're going to buy your car in your company, you need to consider a few different taxes and outcomes. One is income tax, the next is fringe benefits tax, and the next is GST, okay? And so I'm going to quickly touch on each of them. For income tax, the one thing you need to be aware of is that there is a depreciation limit for how much you can claim of that motor vehicle you have purchased. So if you're going to want to buy a luxury vehicle that's over the depreciation limit, it ranges from about 58 to 68 grand per year. It's mid 60s nowadays. If you want to buy a vehicle that's over that, you have to remember that you're actually not getting a tax deduction for anything over that depreciation limit.
Yeah, so you don't get the excess. So every dollar you spend over that there's no tax benefit.
No, it just sits in your company. It's just a lifestyle choice that you've decided to make. And even further to that, if you want the honest truth, it's very big audit bait. If you've got a luxury car in your company, it's a bit, so the ATO might look at that as a bit excessive and try to, often they do audits on more luxury cars and things like that. So it's important that you make sure you've considered those things. The other thing is, if the vehicle is over $20,000, it's not just a write-off where you get to just reduce your income by that amount.
Yeah.
You actually need to depreciate that vehicle over an 8-year period. Okay, so you only get a portion of that vehicle every single year. Furthermore to that, you actually need to put together a logbook over a 12-week period. You can keep it for 5 years as long as your business use hasn't really changed. And you can only claim really a percentage of the business use of that vehicle. And it's going to lead me into the next tax. But basically, keep a logbook for a 12-week period. If you are going to buy one, know that there is a depreciation limit on that vehicle. And know that there are certain vehicles that have better or worse tax incentives. Yeah. So while we consider things vehicles, the ATO might not consider a commercial van or a commercial ute, for example, a vehicle. And so they don't actually have that cost limit applied to them. So depending on which car you want to buy and what you're looking at, there are different tax effects. The next thing I want to talk about is FBT. So a lot of people think, I'll just go and buy this car in my business and I'll just claim 100% of it. The problem with doing that is there's this piece of legislation called fringe benefits tax, or FBT, which was born out of a place of, back in the day, pre-FBT legislation, people used to say, look, I won't pay you money and then you pay tax on that money. Yeah. What I'll do is I'll just pay for your kids' school fees, I'll buy you a new car, or I'll pay your mortgage repayments, and no one needs to know anything. And so the ATO put out this fringe benefits tax legislation that says if you're providing a benefit to your employees, we will tax you as the employer to make sure that basically you're paying tax on the benefits you're providing effectively.
And you're paying tax on those benefits as if you were paying them on top marginal tax rate.
Absolutely.
So it's like not only are you paying the tax, you're paying the most amount of tax you could possibly pay on a wage.
Exactly right. So why is this important to consider? It's important that you consider, if you are buying a business vehicle, it needs to be strongly related to your business, and your logbook would really, for it to be worth it, need to show a strong business use percentage. So if you're thinking about buying a lifestyle car in your business, I would highly recommend against that. If you are buying a vehicle in your business, it needs to be a commercially sound decision that is related to your business, that helps you undertake business activities. And so
let's just make a blanket rule, bro.
Yeah.
If you're going to buy a luxury vehicle, we're talking 100, 150, 200 grand, like really expensive luxury vehicles. Yeah. Just don't buy them in your business. It's not worth it. Just don't do it.
Absolutely. Especially where it's not very related to your business and you don't really need
unless you're in the luxury car hire business, it's a different story. But absolutely. Most people are not.
Absolutely. So that's the FBT portion. And even if you do buy a car and you do have the business use percentage, you still need to do an FBT tax return, or make sure that you're compliant with the FBT legislation by putting together the documents required and making sure you have an employee contribution in place, okay? Speak to your accountant about those. They're a bit more complex.
Go on.
The last thing I want to go through when you're buying a car in your company is the GST effect of buying a car in your company. So yes, if you buy a car and that car is subject to GST, so you bought it from another business, you can claim the GST credits. Again, you can only claim those GST credits up to a certain limit. So even if you do buy a car over the limit, you're not actually even getting those GST credits back. That's important to make sure you're getting right. And the final thing that you need to consider when you are buying a car, I often ask the question, are you going to keep this car for a long time? And the reason I ask that question is, if you sell a vehicle that you have written off in your business or have depreciated strongly over an 8-year period, when you sell that vehicle, you're actually exposed to some tax on the sale of that vehicle, especially during the era. If you bought a car between 2020 and 2022-ish, when the tax legislation allowed you to write it off pretty much day one, and you do end up selling that vehicle, you do have to pick up an adjustment on when you sell that vehicle. You're actually exposed to tax on that. And so not a lot of people think about, especially in that COVID period where it was maximum.
Huge depreciation. I'm going to save all this tax because we can write off all this. But if you turn around and sell that car for 50 grand, guess what? You've got a 50 grand gain on asset. So now you're paying all the tax back on the 50 grand you thought you got a deduction
including the GST as well.
Plus the GST.
Yeah, so important to consider all of those factors and ask your accountant. Probably the last tip I'd give there.
Yeah.
Make sure you talk to your accountant before you buy the vehicle.
Talking to your accountant. When should you talk to your accountant? This is what I've been saying to people. I say to every single client, there are 5 things that you go through that you should not do without picking up the phone and talking to me. Number 1, are you increasing your wage or taking dividends out of the business? I want to know about it.
100%.
Are you buying or selling property? Number 2, I want to know about it. Are you buying or selling a vehicle in your business? I want to know about it. Are you buying, selling your business or bringing in a partner? I want to know about it. Are you hiring your first ever full-time employee? I want to know about it. I just tell them off the bat 5 things. If you're not talking to your accountant when these 5 things happen, all you've got is what you think and what you've heard on some reel on Instagram. What you should have is access to a person or a team where you can tell them your specific scenario. They should know your books intimately. They should know your profit and loss, your balance sheet. You should call them and say, I want to take my wage from $90,000 to $110,000. I want to pull out a dividend, say, of $30,000. And they should be able to, on the spot, because they know you intimately, say, well, this is going to be the tax effect. Don't do this. Don't take a dividend. Increase the wage. You know, if you're going to put them on, have you looked at this or that? If you do not have a relationship with an accountant, you do not have an accountant.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Great point. And often you say even look at your accountant as a speed dial. So, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? Your accountant is there to guide you and to just sort of get you in check and make sure that, okay, it's a right decision, not only for your business commercially, but for, from a numbers perspective as well. So
the best tax tip I can give you is you don't know what the hell you're doing. That's the best tax tip I can give you. Yeah. So pick up the phone, call someone who knows, say what you're thinking in your head out loud and let them abuse you. Yeah. Let them push back on you. Let them give you, what I really mean is an honest opinion and let them guide you because you don't know everything. Don't go make impulsive decisions when you've got access to people who really understand your scenario.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, even me as an accountant, I struggle with this. Like I've made decisions and I haven't consulted people, and I've now decided moving forward that the best way to make a decision is to get as much information and get as much consultations or pull in the most amount of brains. Yeah. There is an excessive amount where you're getting too much information and you just need to make a decision. But often just make sure you have the right inner circle around you to assist you in your business decisions. So great advice. Okay, we are going to go through a few news articles at the moment. And so
I love me a good news article.
Yeah,
I actually went through my subscriptions recently trying to reframe my budget. I subscribed to 7 newspapers.
Really?
Yes, sir. 7 newspapers, and that's because I need to know all the news. And I read all the news every day.
Do you actually?
And there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to news and YouTube. Yeah. And I just need to know what's happening and when. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's designed to do that to you. You know this.
It's dopamine hits. It's like being addicted to your screen and that. Yeah. And don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. I was going to say, is this something you want to talk about? All right, I'm John Sardi and I have a news addiction.
I've got a news addiction.
That's great. All right. Now, I'm going to go through.
I'm that guy when I try to cancel my newspaper subscription. They got the call center that calls and they say like, "Hey, like, do you really want to like unsubscribe?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I don't actually. Oh, keep me on. Keep me on."
It's easier to just stay on because even the unsubscribe, bro, all the unsubscribe emails are making me tick a few boxes and whatnot.
Bro, if you say, "Are you sure you want to unsubscribe?" You've hooked me. I'll stay on. Don't worry about it.
No problem. Great marketing there. All right. Let's go. Couple risks at all to launch a successful clothing brand. A Queensland couple remortgaged their home, maxed out 5 credit cards, and sold their belongings to invest $40,000 into starting their dream clothing line. Years later, they are now stocked in over 60 stores. Their t-shirts continue to sell out within hours. Reflecting on their journey, the couple say they've earned back their investment and cherish the joy of seeing customers reconnect with their personal style. What are your thoughts on this business story?
Man, I love to see a success story in a business. You know, we are in a bad spot in the economy and so many businesses are failing. So when you hear the 1 in 100 success story where they put it all on the line and won, you have to like be happy for them. I'm 100% happy for them.
Yeah.
Is this good advice? Would you say to someone, sell everything you have, mortgage everything, chuck it all into a business? That's the burning the boats. So, there's to some extent you say, yeah, that's great. You should do that if that's what you truly believe in. And at the end of the day, like I'm sure even if it all failed, they'd still have a way to eat and have shelter. So, what I think is impressive is that some of these like ideas that we felt like are dead or old, they keep coming back. Like who was
a clothing brand?
A clothing brand.
Yeah.
Like I'm like clothing brand, bro. We've been doing that for thousands of years.
We have a lot of clothes. We have a clothing problem.
So we have so much clothes. We chuck out tons of clothes every year. But like someone waking up and saying, "I'm going to start a clothing brand," that is like the textbook. Like I'm in high school and I want to do something later. And the fact that people still do it and they still find success, it's like attesting to 2 things. One, the entrepreneurial, dream is still alive.
Yep.
And number 2, bro, there must be some clothing brands out there doing things so inefficiently that someone else can just come in on a whim with and set something up and be successful.
Yeah, I love it. There's a couple of takeaways from here. Number 1, a Queensland couple. I love.
You love a Queenslander.
Yeah.
Being a Brisbane Broncos fan.
Us New South Wales in State of Origin.
Yeah.
Brisbane Broncos in the NRL.
Yeah.
So the Queensland part, okay, it would have been nicer if it was a New South Wales couple. But I love that it was a couple who went along and done this.
What do you reckon about couples in business?
Okay, so this is one of my takeaways. So there's a who is Elijah, are a husband and wife pairing, and they run one of the most probably successful businesses over the last 5-10 years I've seen. They're a perfume brand, and basically their argument for being a business couple is that when you're having a conversation with your partner, it's hard to get on their page of what they experienced in their workday. So you go to work, you deal with all your work problems, and then you go home and your partner might ask, how was your day at work? And you can tell them and you can sort of, try to get them on the same page, but it's really hard to connect on a really fundamental level of all the stresses and all the problems and everything you were dealing with. And so their argument is that when you're in the same business, you see the same problems. You see when the business is going well, when it's not going well, you see the peaks and troughs. So when you get home, you don't need to have the conversation of how was your day. You know when that person's stressed because you see it at work. So when you can go home, you can give them a bit of space or whatever, and you can sort of work around each other. So just being on the same page in all aspects of life, I think is amazing for a relationship. And I think, the more in tune with each other you can be, the more you can support and lean on each other and all that sort of thing. There is obviously that's hard work. And to live your, sometimes maybe you need some time away and you need to just have your own space in business or in your career. But I do see a massive upside to being in the same business, having the whole household pushing towards one goal, I think is an amazing thing. And I think I give full credit to partners who are able to sustain a relationship and be in business together. It's beautiful to see.
Do you know, like something I find interesting is like when there's a couple husband and wife, say, in business, I find more often than not, it tends to be a successful, and I might get some flack for this, but successful arrangement if the leader is the wife in the business. And I don't know why I see this, but something I find is that, like, if it's a couple, if there's a couple and the wife is the leader in the business and the husband is supporting her in that role, there's like an evening out of the dynamic of the partnership. Whereas if it's like a family business, and the husband is like, he's the leader in the business, and then like there's more of a risk or a tendency for the wife to fade away into like a more traditional role, or being the mum, or being behind the scenes, and then it doesn't appear as like the family, like a couple business anymore. So I find like a lot of the couple businesses I have in my business, strong female presence and lead in the business, and it's got its pros and cons. And if we're talking about genders, I'll say this: I think we've set up an unfair scenario in society now with the expectation on women business owners. Things around like home duties, having children, all the expectation around being a mum and a woman, coupled with like, I find like the level of drain on a woman business lead is 10 times what it is on a man. It's like, as a man, there's just like a conventional, like, breadwinner, role they can just slip into and like run the business and get all the support from their family and community. How on earth, like I take my head off to women who do this successfully. How on earth do you do that as a woman, and then like having kids, being a wife, do it like trying to be successful in all those realms? So it's almost like if you actually successfully do that, you're not 1 in 1,000, you're 1 in 1,000,000. But the other thought is the strain. It's like the successes you share in the couple relationship, but how do you escape when things are bad at work? And I've seen this in like people that are having like family problems, or like you might have issues like having kids or something like that, husband and wife, but then also having business problems. And now the business problems, because you're in business together, are compounding your marriage problems. And it's like a recipe for disaster. So am I saying never be in business with your husband or wife? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you have a bad run, you are going to drive your marriage and potentially your business to extinction. You want to hope you have a good run and things go well. And, because if it goes down, it's almost like your home life and your work life get destroyed in one go.
You're not hedging anything really. And so the final takeaway we'll go from this story is that, remortgaging their home, max out 5 credit cards, sold belongings to invest $40,000 in starting to their dream clothing line. There's the success rate of business is 10 or 20% over a 10-year horizon. So for every one of these successful scenarios, there are a million of other, well, not a million, but another at least 8 people who have done this thing, and the business has not gone well. And there is a sobering reality to business that success is not guaranteed. And so you need to show up every single day with an attitude to win, and with an attitude that I'm going to do my best, but even my best may not be enough, and you have to be okay with that risk in business, because success is not guaranteed.
There's a concept in war where there's the aggressor and then there's the resistance. The invader or the aggressor has to win the war by totally eliminating their opponent. The resistance only has to survive and not die to win. Okay? Business is like that.
Absolutely.
Okay? A success in business is like a resistance. It's if you can continue trading, you have won. For your enemies to beat you, you have to be completely defeated. And so many businesses I prop up or we look at and we love, they're struggling every day in a resistance to survive. They're on the brink of collapse. They're literally on TV doing, podcasts, doing, news, doing like huge engagements, and they're literally on the verge of collapse. But that's what business is. 100%. It's the resistance. And it's beautiful and it's romantic. And when you understand that, it can be even more attractive.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. There is something attractive about the four outs I always mention at PBD. talks about. It's out improve, outwork, out strategize, but one of the most important is outlast. Just hang in there, keep the fight, never quit, keep moving forward. Love it. All right, last news article. Aussies turn to side hustles amid cost of living crisis. A recent report highlights that over half of Australians are turning to side hustles or small businesses to cope with the rising cost of living, with many seeking flexible ways to boost their income. Motivated by financial pressures, 38% plan to start a side hustle and 17% aim to establish small businesses as their primary sources of income within the next 5 years, especially amongst younger Australians under 25.
Yeah. Side hustles are always been a thing. We used to call it moonlighting.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
having something else you do on the weekend or after hours. Look, the side hustle blew up during COVID because everyone started working from home.
Yeah.
And then, like we got Nathan works at home on Wednesdays. I like to tell him that's his side hustles. But everyone starts working from home. And if you're really efficient at your job, you might find yourself literally out of things to do. So it's going to create opportunities to do a side hustle and hey, that idea I have, my new brand I want to build, maybe I can spend a few hours working on that. I think there's a move back away from work from home at the moment, but the side hustle culture is growing because of cost of living crisis. When I was an aspiring accountant working in the mid-tier as one of the young guns at Hodge Hadwick, I was doing taxi driving on the weekends. So I would literally not have it. Like, I was young, I was, cadet, basic, almost nothing salary, just learning the ropes. It was normal to go get your RSA, work in a bar, like I'm talking 20 years ago, go drive a taxi or go work in a casual job or something to supplement your education. Because being a cadet in an accounting firm, it's not really a job, it's an education. Yeah. It's like being in uni, right? Yeah. And now, that sort of went into like Uber and that sort of thing. But in the online age, it's so easy to set up a business and to set up a website and do a Shopify or a, e-com or something. So I'm not surprised that we've got more and more companies.
Great. I don't disagree with any of that. The one thing I want to disagree with you on is that you say that Nathan works from home on Wednesday, so that's his side hustle. You work at our Marrickville office, which is on Wednesday. Are you running a side hustle? Is this what this is?
I say it's everyone's day off on Wednesday at Olympic Park because I'm in another office. Yeah,
that's great. All right, great. So just to confirm, you're not running a side hustle. Latitude Accountants, your main hustle.
My side hustle is our other office, but
fantastic. Good.
Fortunately, look, I think the death of the side hustle is having a successful business. And it's not that you can't have a side hustle when you have a business. Hey, this podcast is my side hustle to some extent. Yeah. I think some people your time is valuable and it's limited. Okay. And ultimately, there's a burden when you actually find success in something in life, is now the ROI on your time in that field is way too high for you to split your interest. Okay. And resources. For me to spend one less hour on Latitude Accountants and spend 1 hour on something else, the ROI is so low that it has to be a phenomenal opportunity. Otherwise, I can't do it. It's golden handcuffs. So success is its own prison sometimes, where you are now forced to continue doing, if logically speaking, what you have done to make you successful. The beauty of youth and side hustle culture and being young is that you haven't completely found where you're successful yet. So you still have the alternate arrangement, or the alternative to being focused on one thing. You've still got the opportunity to have variety. And variety is so fun. It's new, it's sexy. You can, explore different things. But as soon as you hit it in something, that side hustle becomes the thing, and then there's no more time to basically have side hustles.
Absolutely. So there's what I've seen is there's two arguments for this. One is that, you make your income and then you side hustle on top, and now you're doing quite well. I've seen people use their side hustle to buy properties, to buy investments and things, and do really well.
Some people's side hustles are investing in properties and looking, doing developments and things.
Absolutely. But inevitably one of two things happens. Either it's not sustainable because you've got you're pot committed to too many things. A jack of all trades is a master of none. Or one of the side hustles takes off and then you pivot your business. But there are some people And a lot of the COVID era, it's starting to now, you're now seeing this where people thought, okay, I have a side hustle of doing this and it makes me a little bit of money on the side and it's great and I enjoy doing it. But then I try to pursue that as a business activity and all of a sudden you've lost the fun out of it. You've lost it's no longer a hobby. It's now fully, your income is fully dependent on that side hustle.
Yeah.
And you need to hire and you need to grow and whatever. And it just becomes all too much. And you realize, okay, hang on, maybe I'm not built for doing something like this. Maybe I'll go back into transition to a full-time role, which is an evolution I've seen a lot. And a lot of the COVID businesses, if they haven't taken off and done really well and are still growing today, have eventually moved back into, okay, you know, now it's my side thing again, or, you know, maybe I want to call it, put a you know, pause on it or whatever. And I have seen clients even just sort of going between finding their feet and navigating that journey. So that's also happening, but the cost of living crisis is real.
The side hustle, there's a side hustle scam that goes on. It's that when you're running a side hustle, almost anything will be profitable.
That's right. Yeah.
There's a trick and there's a trap.
Yep.
If you're not careful, you get caught in this trap. Sometimes your side hustle is successful purely because it is a side hustle.
100%.
As soon as you try to scale the side hustle and you legitimize it and you take out real costs, expenses and location, the business model breaks.
Yeah.
So if you find a good side hustle, which takes minimal amount of effort and is profitable, sometimes the right thing to do is just to keep it as a side hustle forever and don't ever grow it.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many times I've had meetings with people who have side hustles and a high taxable income, and it's just after the conclusion of meetings every year, we have the same meeting. Should I go full-time into my business? Should I not? And a lot of the time, it's like, no, you're doing really well on the side. It's not taking up too much of your time. You're getting good ROI. Keep moving forward. Keep doing it as a side hustle. Absolutely no shame, and you're doing well out of that.
On the cost of living crisis, what a disgusting scenario that we find ourselves in Australia, that you need to work 2 people in a family and 2 people plus 2 side hustles to afford a mortgage or to afford groceries or cost of living. Why are we building a society where you can't even afford a roof over your head? I heard Matt Barry, who's a CEO of Freelancer, talking. He did an address called "Put Another Aussie on the Barbie" recently. It was a paper he wrote. He basically says to be able to buy a house in a country is an investment in that country. A society will collapse when an average person cannot buy an average house. We're in a situation in Australia where an average person can't buy an average home. If we go to war, and we're on the verge of World War III, and you can't get buy-in from the people in the country to fight. Well, let me reframe
Fight
that.
for their way of life.
Let me reframe that. If you cannot afford a property in a country to own and live in, why should you be expected to go fight a war for that country? And it's so true. The fabric of society starts to break down when basic commodities like home and food, education, things like that are now beyond the reach of the average person. There is a fundamental bubble and issue in the way we're doing property and even like cost of living in Australia. And we're just pouring immigration on it right now to keep the bubble growing and keep it going. But I'm not happy about that.
Yeah. Forget about, I was even thinking, I had this conversation this week with a couple of the staff. Forget about just an average person. The median wage, I think it's somewhere between 75 and 90 grand, right? 2 of those, you're on 180 household income. That's fine. That's the average sort of or median Australian household. Let's say you're an uber high income earner, right? And you're in the top 1%. To be in the top 1%, you've got to be making between 200 and 300 grand, I think it roughly is. I did the maths, on a $500,000 income. Well, let's call it somewhere between, you're in the top 1%, you're earning between $200,000 and $500,000. To live a normal life at $200,000 to $500,000, and when I say normal, let me paint a picture for you. You have the average Australian household has 2.3 kids or whatever the number is, so you want 2 new cars, You want to put your kids into a private school, and you want a home, a nice home. That's what someone earning a large amount of money, that becomes their standard. The $180,000 income earner, their standard is send 2 kids to school, have a couple of cars, and then have a home that they're paying off. You are on the brink on both of those salaries, just so you know.
Yeah.
So if you're earning a couple of hundred, you're on the brink because your lifestyle, you've taken out all your taxable income to compensate for your lifestyle. And even if you're earning more, you simply have upgraded your lifestyle and you are still on the brink, albeit with an upgraded lifestyle. So I think the best place to be as an Aussie is to invest in yourself, do the side hustle, do the thing that brings in the highest taxable income, and then make sure your lifestyle does not creep to where it may be had you been earning that higher income and, blow all your taxable income and whatnot. So live below your means, I think is maybe the solution. And it's even the cost of living crisis has meant that even people living below their means have not been able to keep up. So it is, like you said, it's not a great place where Australians find themselves in, and we really hope it gets better and that we navigate our way out of this and we can get the Australian dream back, where the average people can just work hard, buy a home, support a family, and live a purpose-filled life. The last topic we're gonna touch on is get rich quick schemes. So, with Instagram flooded with courses promising instant wealth, what are your thoughts around a good coach versus a bad coach, a good program that you can sign up to? And we see in a lot of personal development, there's so many people that spend tens of thousands of dollars in personal development and don't do much with the information. There's so many people that have built their success around how much they've invested in themselves. Yeah. What are your thoughts around all of that?
Look, my problem with get rich quick schemes is the premise, get rich and quick. Like thinking on using first principles is, why are we using the concept? Why should the goal be to get rich quick? Why would you even do that? Like if you're thinking about wealth as the goal, you're misunderstanding fundamentally how the money system works, and you're misunderstanding essentially the purpose of why we have jobs and why we have businesses. The point of business, jobs, careers are to create value and to meet market conditions where they're at, so you can provide a service or a good. If you do that well, then wealth and profit will circle back into that environment, therefore making you well off. I think we have an oversupply of coaches trying to teach people tactics on how to make money, and an undersupply of coaches teaching people strategy on how to create value. Yep. We've got a brain drain in the sense that all the knowledge and expertise in this country sitting in the segment of baby boomers is about to approach retirement. Mm. You know what we haven't done well? We haven't passed on that information downwards to the next generations. As they all leave, there's all these skills and knowledge about value creation, commerce, manufacturing, service production, all disappearing from the market. And what we're raising through social media is a generation of people that are thinking about, how am I going to get rich? And if I get rich, that's the metric I'm going to use to prove my success. Bro, I don't care how rich you are. If you show me how rich you are on Instagram, you better show me an underlying business model where you created heaps of value, because that's what I'm interested in. I want to know how many small business heroes you helped achieve their financial and accounting goals. I want to know how well you created your clothing and why your clothing is premium. I want to know why your restaurant or your pho is better than the next pho at the next Vietnamese pho shop. I want to show me how you created value. That's so much more interesting and attractive to me, and therefore you got rich because you met something in the market. Then you got rich, because if you got rich and you created no value, oh yeah, man, I got lucky on Bitcoin, blah blah blah. Bro, you didn't create anything new. The Bitcoin was there. Oh, you mined the Bitcoin, but I don't care. Like, or you traded it, and now you've got more Bitcoin and someone else has got less Bitcoin. You're a hero. I don't care about that. Yep. You didn't create any new Bitcoin. Yeah. I want you to create something. I want your legacy to be that you did carpentry, construction, marketing, beauty, whatever you want to do that better than the next guy with all your effort, and you'll get rich.
Absolutely.
Yep. That's my takeaway.
Absolutely. So there's two takeaways from me. Number one is get rich quick. The sentence makes absolutely no sense. because wealth is built over a long time horizon. And if we look at the most wealthy and the most successful people, they have sacrificed a significant amount of time to then create their wealth. And why? Because value takes a lot of time to create. If you could get rich quick, everyone would get rich. And so there's no, and even the idea of getting rich quick, the journey of building wealth is what allows you to build wealth. So even if I gave someone who won the lotto all the money in the world, the lessons that you would have incurred generating that wealth over a longer period of time is what would have helped you A, gain that wealth, and B, retain that wealth. So I can't substitute the lessons, the wisdom, and the understanding of a business journey by just giving you that money. It's the teacher. Give a kid a fish, and he'll be good for a day. Teach a kid to fish, and they'll be good for a lifetime. That's number one. Number two, I love business coaches, consultants who do a good job. I respect the industry, and I think there is scope for those players in the industry. There is two things I don't like. Number one is business coaches and consultants who have not done the thing and are teaching people how to do the thing. I think it's far more credible when we have someone with skin in the game. And an example I'll use here is, for example, Ravi Sharma, who has a buyer's agent, had built a property portfolio himself first and then taught people how to build the property portfolio. I respect and have a lot of admiration. I have a lot of respect for someone who's built a 7, 8, 9 figure, whatever that business is, and is now teaching people how they have done that thing. I love that.
Yeah.
What I don't love is someone who can talk the talk but can't walk the walk. Okay, that's number two, and number three escapes me. But what was I going to say with number three? Bloody hell, I've lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Here's number three. There's only so much of personal development, okay, of the same thing you should be doing. Once you have learnt the thing, you need to then do the thing, okay? And if you are constantly in the cycle of just relearning a specific topic over and over again and not implementing any of that, no coach, no consultant, no accountant, no lawyer, no service provider is going to help you solve the problem if you're not willing to get in there and implement the advice. Ultimately,
there's no substitute for hard work.
There's no substitute for hard work. And ultimately, if you are the person blaming the coach for your lack of results constantly, or constantly thinking that you need to know the next big thing, you do not need to know the next big thing. You know everything you need to know. It's time to go and implement and be superhuman and get the thing done. That's actually a lesson that I've even received myself a few years ago. One of my mentors said, you know everything you need to know. It's time to go in and execute the thing you know. And that's helped me propel myself to a higher phase of my
That's
career.
one of the things with the coaching model. It's like, if the whole model is coaching, then once you deliver the education, if your clients are successful, you lose a client. You don't need that. I need you anymore.
Yeah.
So it's got a high churn. So as a model itself, I'm not attracted to it, because unlike, say, a subscription model or a repeat service, or a good that has a diminishing value, it's like you're relying on having to find new customers all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't like. There's business models that have to do that, and that's fair enough. But I much prefer business models where you get a more longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John, it's been an absolute pleasure talking through this episode, today's episode of the Lat Chat.
I've enjoyed it.
This episode, if you liked it, if you've got some value, if you've liked this sort of format, drop us a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, drop us a comment, drop us a like, show us some love, and follow the Latitude Accountants journey. We're excited to share it all with you. We have a vision to help 1,500 heroes make their business dreams a reality. And we're here to help you do three things: manage tax, understand your numbers, and navigate the small business journey. We'd love for you to follow on, drop us a like, drop us a comment, and let us know what you're thinking.